Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back here with another video, and today I'm gonna bring another episode for my ReactJS course. This is a part where we are in our final stretch of this course. In this episode, I'm gonna start working on the final project, and I'm not sure how many episodes this project will take, but my plan is to go over a project that will not only show you guys new topics that I haven't introduced yet, but also refresh you guys on all the topics that we learned throughout this course. So I'm going to use everything that we've learned, and maybe not everything, but most of it, and show you guys how to integrate everything from start and build an actual cool application. So my goal is to build a very simple application where we're able to log in, create an account, then be able to post stuff with that account. Maybe I can add some functionalities to it later on, but that's my plan, at least for now. That will include a simple CRUD using Firebase. So we're going to be using Firebase to create our backend, quote unquote backend, because Firebase technically is very different from a normal backend. But the main focus will be all the things that we learned in React. And I'm going to emphasize all of it throughout the course. So I'm really excited. If you want to check out how this project ends up, if you're in the future, just check out the last episode. Actually, I believe that the last episode will be about testing. Check out the last episode of the project in this course. So if you want to do that, check that out. Also check the code. It will all be in the description. And yeah, that's basically it. So let's get into the episode. Okay, everyone. So we're going to start off the tutorial by just opening up over here VS Code in a completely empty project. So we're going to start everything from scratch. And this project will all be created using TypeScript, so keep that in mind. But I feel like if you're not using TypeScript, you can also watch the course. It won't have that much impact. Just skip the parts where I'm adding TypeScript stuff. So to start this off, I have this folder that I opened the project in, and we want to start by running the command npx create React app. So create React app, and then we're going to put a dot to symbolize that we want to create it inside of this folder. Then we're going to put a dash template and TypeScript. So the dash template and TypeScript is just to create a TypeScript application with React. It will start generating everything, and we'll see our files start to appear in our left. I'm going to be back in a second when everything is installed. Okay, so as you can see, it just finished everything. So I'm going to close this for now. And we're going to start off by deleting some files that I'm not going to be using in this project. The first one is the test file. I'm going to add all the tests that we need at the end of the project. So I'm just going to delete this. I'm also going to delete the index.css, the logo, the report, rep vitals, and also the setup tests. So I'm just going to delete all of them right over here. And also I need to delete the imports that are made of those files. So I'm going to delete this, and delete this as well. Then come to our app.tsx, and I'm going to delete a bunch of this stuff. I'm going to delete the logo and all of this stuff over here, right? Also, I want to point out that I'm not going to be working with CSS. Now, this is not a CSS course, obviously, so whenever I'm going to add some CSS, it will be very minimal, and I'm going to edit without showing me writing the CSS. The reason for that is because this whole course is just for React, so I don't want to spend a lot of time writing CSS. Now, a lot of you guys might want to style this project. Go ahead, feel free to do so. It's totally up to you, but all of my styling will be done off camera if there is any styling, because most of the time I just won't care about the styling. So as you can see, we just deleted everything, and we will start running our project already by running npm start, just like this. Okay, so as you can see, it opened up over here our localhost 3000, which is where our project will be running. And I want to start off by installing some packages that I know for sure we're going to need. The first one is a package called react-firebase-hooks. There's a video in this course about this. It obviously will help us define our routes in our application. And at least for now, I believe that's all we're going to install. So I'm just going to put npm install react-firebase-hooks, and we'll start setting up the routes in our project. So what do we want in our project? Well, first of all, we want to have a couple pages, right? We want to have a page for logging in or signing up. It will be the same page. We will probably just call it login. We also want our main page, which will display all the different posts that you write. And when I say posts, I basically mean something like Facebook, right? We can customize this however we want, but it can be something like this, where you have a little square being displayed over here, where there will be the username of the user that posted that, also maybe a text, like a description of the post. Maybe we can add images later on, but for now we'll just keep it like that. And probably a title as well, something like that. If I want to overcomplicate this, we can also put likes, where users are able to like each other posts, that kind of stuff. But I will decide later on if I find it valuable enough to add it to this course. But this is kind of the idea of what we want. So for now, we're just going to create two routes in our application. One for logging in and one for the main route. So this route over here. So we're going to come over here at the top. We're going to say import from React Router DOM. And what we're going to import is what we always import when we set up a React Router application. We're going to first say browser router and change its name to just router. Then we're going to import a route, the routes component, and also, actually, I'll keep the link out of this. I'll make a different component just for links. So we have these three components over here that, as you might recall, are extremely important for our app. Because in order to set up our routes, we'll come inside of our app div, and I'm going to define the router first. Then this will just tell us that all of our routes will exist inside of here, meaning that everything related to React Router DOM will have to exist inside of this router component over here. Then I'm going to define the routes that we're going to have. So like I said, we can put the components inside of router that uses React Router DOM functionality, but are not actual routes. They're just components that are part of this. But the actual routes we define inside of the routes component. So if we want to define the route for the main page, we just put route over here. We put its path, which will be empty slash like this because it's the main page. And then we give it an element. An element is just a component that will be rendered if we decide to go to this route. So what I want to do already is I want to create a folder in our source folder called pages. And this component will serve, or this folder will serve to contain all the different pages in our application. So if we want to create a page for our main page, we can come over here and just create a file called main page, just like this. And since it is a component, we need to put .tsx. But also, since this is already a page, you might imply that it's a page because it's inside of the pages folder. I will remove this page over here and just call this main.tsx, just like this. And it is a component, so we're going to create its component by saying export const main, and then set it equal to a function, right? Because a component is just a function that returns some JSX. So I'm going to put over here some JSX that will just say something like home page, right? Or main page, whatever you decide. Then I also said that we also need to put it inside of the element. So we're going to import over here at the top this component that we just created. So we're going to say pages/main, and we're going to import the main component. And we're just going to put it right over here, just like this. Now, this has to be rendered as a component, so we have to put it within the tags and self-closes as well. So now we have our only route, which is the main route. If we try to go somewhere else, it will just not show anything, unless we are in the main route, which will display the correct component. The other component, or the other route that we want to create, is the login route. So I'm going to create over here a path called login, and we're going to create another file. I'm just going to duplicate this file just because I don't want to rewrite everything, and just change this to login.tsx, just like this. Also change the component name to the login component. And for now, let's just change this to the login page, just like this. We're going to save all of them, and we're going to import the login component over here. by changing this to login and also changing this to login as well. And finally, to make this work, we'll just put the login as the component that is going to be rendered when you go to the login route. We're going to open up our Google Chrome and test it out to see if it's working. We'll go to the login over here. And yeah, of course, it says the login page if we're here. But if we go back to the main page, it will say the home page, right? Or the main page, whatever. Now, it's kind of annoying to keep having to change the location by putting slashes over here. I want to have an easy way to do this. So we're going to create a simple navbar over here that is going to facilitate everything for us. Now, a navbar is going to be a different component, but we don't, since it's not a page, we're not going to put it inside of the pages folder. In order to organize our project better, whenever we have components that are not part of any of these pages over here, or also not part of any of these components over here, we'll just create a separate folder called components and put all of them inside of here. So the first component that I want to create is the navbar. So we're just going to say navbar.tsx, just like this. Then I'm going to copy the way that we create components from the login and put it over here and change this to navbar. And navbar will be a little bit different than the other ones. So over here, we want to put a div, of course, but inside of it, we want to put a couple links linking to the different pages in our website. Now, in order to create a link using React DOM, we don't use the normal A tag that people are used to in HTML. We use something called a link, which is a component from React DOM, and it's really easy to use. All you have to do is you just come over here, you call the link component, you give it a text like a label. So initially, let's just create a link to the home page or the main page, and I'll put home over here. Now I have to say where this link will link to by adding the to prop over here. And since we're going to the home page, we'll just put an empty slash to link to that page. Now we can create another one for the login because it's the other page we have for now. So we're just going to change everything to match the login component as well. Now, it's not visible yet because we haven't actually told React to display that component. So in order to do that, we're going to come to our app.tsx and we're going to import the navbar over here at the top. So import ./component/navbar, and we want to import the navbar component. Now, where are we going to put this? Well, first of all, we can't put it over here. We can't. The reason why we can't put it over here is because inside of this component, it is using the link component, which comes from React DOM. And you'll see that it will basically not show anything. Well, it's breaking because, like I mentioned, the whole purpose of this router component over here is it defines which components or where in your app you have access to React DOM functionality. And since navbar is outside of it, it won't work. But we also can't put it inside of the routes because we can't put it over here because navbar is not a route. Instead of routes, you should only have the route component, right? So where we put it is in between the router and the routes because that's where it should be. And you can see now that we have this little navbar that no matter which page we're in, we have access to it, and that's important. But also, when I click on the different links, it will navigate me to the different routes in our app. As you can see, it's changing the URL over there. So this is really cool. We just created some simple routes, and at least for now, that's enough. So what I want to do now is I want to start creating my login page and all of its functionalities. So there's a lot of different ways to log in an application or create an account in an application. I want to show you guys a cool one, which is my favorite way because it requires almost no type of like password system, like basically nothing like that, which is being able to sign up with a Google account. Now that's really cool because a lot of websites use this. It's very easy. You just let Google handle all of your authentication, all of your login, everything, and you just include it in your application. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, Firebase makes that very easy for us. So this is the part where we start integrating Firebase into our project. I have Firebase over here opened. So in order to do that, you just go to firebase.google.com, and I want to give you guys a brief overview of what Firebase is. So Firebase is basically a service created by Google, which facilitates a lot of stuff. One of the things that it makes it easier for you is creating a backend for your front-end application. So backend is a whole concept that requires a lot of work to learn. And if you're planning on just becoming a front-end engineer, which I guess a lot of people here might be, or a lot of people might just be wanting to learn React and not wanting to learn a backend, this can be a good thing because it makes it very easy for you to write a backend that exists in your frontend, if that makes any sense. So in our case over here, we're going to be using it because we don't want to include backend stuff in this course, and Firebase will allow us to do that. So it includes everything. It includes authentication systems. It includes a database. It includes everything that we might want to use. So we were going to use this in this project. So we come here to firebase.google.com. It is completely free. And you log in with your account. You see I'm already logged in with a random account that I have. Then I'm going to go to console by clicking on this button. And you're going to click on add project. So when you add a project, you have to set up a project name. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to call this React Course. This is just my project name, but obviously give it whatever name you want. And then you see over here, it has this little thing over here that you have to click. When you click on it, you click on continue, and it will ask if we need any Google Analytics. I'm not going to enable it. And I'm going to click create project. But if you want to enable it, go ahead, no worries. But I'm going to click on create project. We have to wait for it to create. So I'm going to be back in a second when it's done. Okay, so as you can see, it says your new project is ready. So I'm going to click on continue and it will open up our actual console for this project. Now, this is where it starts to get fun. It has a lot of stuff included over here, but what we really need is this thing over here because you can use Firebase for any kind of app. So you can use it for iOS apps, Android apps, Unity games, whatever you want, but we want it for web. So we're going to click on this and we want to register our web app. Again, I'm going to call this React Course, but again, give it a nickname, whatever name for your project you want. And if you want to set up hosting, so if you want to deploy using Firebase, you can click this, but you can set it up later if you want to as well. I'm not going to click that. At the end of this course, actually I will teach you guys how to deploy this. I just realized that would be a good thing to add to this course. So I'm going to do that. But for now, we'll just click on register app and it will start registering our application. Okay, so it finished registering and we have all of these instructions over here that we have to follow. Now, it's very self-explanatory. Actually, it's really simple. All you have to do is you go to your Visual Studio Code, which is your app. You open up your terminal. You just go over here and write npm install, and you install the Firebase library, just like this. Press enter, and it will start installing. Then I want to create a file over here. Actually, I'm going to create a folder in our source. It's going to be called the config folder. Now, config, in any project, if you have any configuration files, you would add it over here. So if you're connecting to any service, any API, any stuff like that, you might want to create a file and add it to this folder. This is mainly for organization purposes. In our case, we are going to create a file because Firebase requires some configuration. So I'm just going to create this file called firebase.ts. It's not tsx because it's not a component. And then inside of here, we're going to come to Google Chrome and just copy all of this that is inside of this box over here and just paste it directly inside of this file. So as you can see, it says cannot find module. Did it not install? Oh, it's still installing. But as you can see, wait for Firebase to be installed before doing this. I'll just wait a bit and come back in a second when this is done. Okay, as you can see, it finished installing. So the error is gone. And one thing I want to point out is I'm showing all of you guys this, but it's like it doesn't matter because this is like for my project. In your case, it will be completely different. I wouldn't give this information to other people. This is the actual information that connects your project to your code. So I would keep this secret and not show it to everyone. I wouldn't publish this on GitHub, right? So over here, we have this very simple configuration. It imports this function from Firebase called Initialize app. And as you can see, all you have to do to connect to Firebase, when I say that, I mean connect to the project you created over here in the website, is you just call the Initialize app, pass over your config, and you have this variable called app, which can be used to execute stuff related to this app. So the first thing that we want to do with this app is we want to set up authentication inside of our project. So like I said, I want to be able to authenticate using or log in using Google. And that's very easy using Firebase, because all you have to do is go to authentication over here, and it has a lot of different options, right? I'm going to click on get started and see where this will bring me. As you can see, it comes to this page over here, and there are a lot of different sign-in methods that Firebase allows you to use. One that is really cool is the phone one, which is you just put your phone, it will send you a text message and help you authenticate using that. But they also have like a bunch of other options as well. And some maybe some require some other configurations as well. The one that we want is the Google one, this one over here. So you're going to click on that, then click on enable. Then you just have to choose an email to support that. So I'm choosing a random email that I have, and then you're going to click on save. And this is how you connect to Google Authentication. Now, we're gonna, while this is saving, okay, we just enabled Google, as you can see. It says that in our project now, it allows a Google authentication as a provider. But what we have to do now is we have to come to our code. We have to import from Firebase, just like this, import. But instead of importing from Firebase/app, we're gonna import from Firebase/auth. Then we're gonna come over here and import the get auth function. And also we're going to import something called the Google Auth provider. So the get auth function is used to tell Firebase that we're going to have authentication in our project. And we do that by just creating a constant called auth and setting it equal to get auth, and then passing in the app that we initialized over here inside of this function. But the Google Auth provider is because, like I showed you guys, there are a lot of different ways to authenticate using Firebase, and one of them is using Google. So we're gonna have to use this provider by creating a variable called provider and passing a new Google Auth provider just like this. So we're exporting all of this because we might want to have access to it somewhere down the line, but for now, this should be fine. Then what we want to do is come to our login page over here, this one over here, and we're going to start adding the stuff in order to make we be able to log in with Google. And one of the things I want to add is a little p tag over here, which will say something like sign in with Google, like sign in with Google to continue, just like this. And if we come down here to our Google Chrome and go to our app, it is giving us an error, but I think if we just, it's that kind of error that we just have to restart the app in order to fix it. I'm gonna restart it and run it again, and you'll see that it will be fixed now. But in our login page, you see it says sign in with Google to continue. Then what I wanna do is, I wanna come to Visual Studio Code, and I want to add the button that will be used to sign in with Google. So I'm going to create this button and say sign in with Google. You can see we just created the button, and we'll come over here, and now we have the button in our screen. So in order to click on this button and go through the process of signing in with Google, all we have to do is we have to first import some stuff from the file that we created, our config file, the firebase.ts file. So I'm going to say import from dot slash, I need to go back twice actually, dot slash config slash firebase. And I want to import both the auth variable and the provider that we created. Then I want to import some stuff from Firebase. So I'm going to say firebase/auth. And what I want to import is a method that will allow us to sign in. And there's a bunch of methods, as you can see over here. So with Google, usually what I like to do is I like to click on the button and then appear a little pop-up, which will allow us to log in with our Google account. And then when we log in, it will close the pop-up and sign us into our app. So we're going to use this function called sign in with pop-up, but there's a bunch of other sign-ins, as you can see over here as well. But sign in with pop-up is the one that we want to use in this application. Then I also want to come down here at the bottom and create a function called something like sign in with Google. And this function will be called whenever we click on the button. So I'm going to say button on click and just pass in over here the sign in with Google function, just like this. Now we'll come to our sign in with Google function and we'll call the sign in with pop-up function that we imported from Firebase. This function will take in two things, an auth and a provider, which is the two things that we created back in our Firebase file. Then it will return a promise. So there's two ways to handle this. We can either use a .then method or we can use async await. I'm going to be using async await because I find it to be better. I like it more. So to use async await, we have to call make this function be async, just like this. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to say that we want to create a variable called the result and await for the response of this function. So basically what we're trying is we're going to sign in with pop-up. It will pop up, it will show the pop-up for the user. The user will log in with their information, their Google information, and that information will then be sent back to this variable over here. To test it out, we could just console log the result and see what happens. So let's try this out. We'll come over here. We'll open our console. So now if I click on the sign in with Google button, it will show up all of the Google accounts that we might want to sign in with. I'm going to choose this one here at the bottom. I'm not showing all of my Google accounts so you don't see them. And this is a random one that I created. Obviously it doesn't even have my name. And when you click on it to log in, it will authenticate and console log the results that we get back. This will include a bunch of information, including information about the user, right? This includes a token related to their authentication, their name, their email, if the email is verified, even metadata about their pictures, that kind of stuff. It's really cool. Their phone number, if they put it for Google, a bunch of information about the user. So you can use all of that in your favor because this is how we're going to be creating accounts in our project. So we see that we're now able to authenticate with Google. So what do we do now? Well, a simple thing that I want to do is when you log in, I want to, first of all, redirect you back to the homepage because you're now going to be seeing the homepage with all the different posts, but also include over here in the navbar a little, your username and your profile picture just to identify that you've logged in. So let's do that. First of all, we want to be able to be redirected towards the homepage. So how do we do that? Well, it's pretty simple. We're going to be using a function from React.js called navigate. But to use that function, we have to import this thing called useNavigate. The useNavigate is just a hook that will allow us to create this function called navigate when we're going to set it equal to useNavigate. And whenever we call this function, just like this, and whatever we put inside of this function is the URL or the route that we're going to be redirected to. So now you'll see that if I come over here and I go to the login page, try to sign in with Google, and then go to my account, I'll be automatically redirected back to the home page. We're not in the login page anymore, as you can see, which is really cool. But not only that, I now want to, in any case or any scenario inside of our navbar, display the username of the user logged in. How exactly are we going to do that? Well, this auth variable that we created over here, it contains all of the information of the user that just logged in, which is amazing because it means that no matter where in our app, if we come over here and we import the auth variable from the file that we created, so I'm going to go to config/firebase and I import that auth variable, we're going to be able to access the information about the user. So a way to do that is by coming over here. Right after all of the links, I want to create a div which is going to display the information about the user logged in. And first, I'm going to put their username. So their username, we can access it by saying auth dot, and then saying current user dot display name. And this way we can get the display name of the current user. As you can see, I logged in with an account, a Google account, which has a name called Ted Mosby for some reason. But you can see that's the name being displayed. And if we want to display their profile picture, we can even put a little image tag over here by taking use of the auth.currentUser.photo URL. So what we want to do is we want to come over here and give this a source, and the source will be the photo URL that we get back from the current user. So we're going to say current user.photo URL, just like this. Now you can see this gives us an error because maybe the user doesn't have a photo URL in their account, so Google will return it as null, meaning that a source can't be null. It can only be a string. So it's an error related to TypeScript. And what we can do is, if this ever returns null, we can just say that if this is not null, show this, but if it's null, then just show an empty string, just like this, and this will remove the error. Also, we want to set a width and a height. I'm just going to put 100 for each of them to make it just a square. And we can take a look over here, and you'll see that now it also displays the image, right? But I want to point out something that might not work, because if I come over here and I try to log in again with a different account, but this time I try to log in with another account, you'll see that it will not automatically update stuff. See, if I obviously like save my code or anything like that, it might update, but it's not doing it instantly. And one way we can fix this is by using a really cool library which I've been using so far with Firebase, and it actually helped a lot make everything go really easily. I don't know if this library is that well known, but I honestly really like it. It is a library that allows us to use pre-made hooks to facilitate using Firebase. This library is called react-hooks-firebase. So, or react-firebase-hooks. Yeah, I think it's the second option. So what we want to do is we want to install the library right now. We're going to come over here to our terminal. We're going to say npm install, and then we're going to say react-firebase-hooks, just like this. Then we're going to press enter. It will start installing it. Then we're going to come over here to our, right over here to our Navbar, and we're going to import something from the react-firebase-hooks library. And what we want to import is from the auth package inside of this library. So what we want to import from this is the use auth state hook just over here. It also has a lot of other hooks that we could have used so far. It adds a lot of stuff for us, but this one is the one that I want to use right now, because all I have to do is whenever I want to have access to the current auth user, I can just call this hook like this, saying const equals to auth state, pass in our auth variable from our Firebase config, and then we can get a couple stuff. For example, we can get the current user information, also a loading state, and also any error that might occur. For simplicity reasons, we only need the user right now, because that's the only thing that really matters for us as of right now, because we're in the Navbar. Maybe we'll add that later on when we possibly create like a profile page or something like that. But for now, this should be fine. So we use this instead of this that we were using before. And now what happens is this hook will automatically update this user variable whenever you log in with a different account. Meaning that, as you can see right here, it already did it for us. If I try to log in again with my other account, you'll see it will do everything automatically and show the new information. And I think this looks really cool. Now, setting up everything it took a lot of time. That's why it looks like we haven't made a lot of progress, but we did. We set up a lot of the authentication. We set up a lot of the groundwork for this project, which took a long time. We set up Firebase, which is amazing. I believe we're gonna need 2 more episodes for this project, which is fine because I'm really excited for it to be done. But what I want to do just to sign off from this video is adding some CSS to make this Navbar look a little bit better. So I'll be back in a second when the CSS is done. Okay, everyone. So as you can see, I added some CSS. Some might say this looks ugly. I like to think that this looks amazing. But obviously, like I said, add the CSS however you want. If you want to check out the code, I'm just going to show you real quick. This is all I did. I just added this much of CSS into my project. I also added some class names, as you can see. Oh, I also added a div around the links. That's just one addition I made, but I kept all the logic the same because that's what I wanted. I decreased the width and the height of the image, and yeah, that's basically it. I decided to also add a sign out functionality right now, just because I wanted to add everything related to signing in and authentication in this video. So I'm going to really quickly do that because it is actually really quick to do. So in order to do something like that, I'm going to just add a button right over here, right next to the image. And this button will be our sign out button or log out. I'm actually going to call it log out, just like this. And what we want to do is we want to have this function, which is going to be used to log out. So we're going to say const, then we're going to say sign out, and we're going to set this equal to just a normal function. And we're going to import from the Firebase library. So I'm going to say import from Firebase/auth, a function called sign out, just like this. Actually, I just realized they have the same name, so that's not good. So we're going to call this sign user out, something like this. And then use this function over here at the bottom by first making this function async, then just coming over here and just saying await sign out. Then we just pass the auth variable that we get from our Firebase config file, and that should be enough to log out the user. Let's test it out. I'm going to put the non-click for this button and call this sign user out function. Then the styling is ugly again, but because I just decided to do that. But if I click on this button, you should see that it doesn't sign out anymore, which is amazing. Also, I'm going to put I don't like this idea over here because it's showing the picture even when the user is not logged in. So one thing I can do about that is I can just say if, just like this, if not user. So I'm going to wrap all of this around and ask if not user, or actually if user, then I want to display all of this over here. If not, then I just don't want to display anything. It's giving us an error because it has 3 different tags, one next to each other, and no parent. So we have to add a fragment to be the parent of all of these tags. But all we're saying here is if the user variable from useAuth state exists, is not null, then we want to display all of this. If not, don't even bother displaying because it won't show that little image. But as you can see, logging out worked perfectly. And if I want to log in again, I could just click here, click on my account, and it will automatically log in, which is amazing. So this is basically it for this video. I'm really excited to be getting to the end of this course. I really love this course. I got a lot of good support from it, so I'm really excited. This finance project should go over everything that we've learned so far, which is amazing. And yeah, that's basically it. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below and comment what you want to see next. Subscribe because I'm going to be posting 3 times a week and I would massively appreciate it. And yeah, that's basically it. I see you guys next time.